Okay, so we'll get right into it. So, can you tell us a little bit about where your passion for the environment came from?
It's kind of impossible to travel around the world and not being affected. When I started to travel in early 90s, 93, 94, I went around for my own sake. It was an egoistic thing, a personal thing. I wanted to achieve things for myself. Then I came to villages and I understood that these people need help. So I went back again and it felt wrong. It felt wrong to visit the place without helping out. So the next one, I said, like, okay, fine. So I approached a sponsor. I said, okay, you're going to give me 10K. But at the same time, I want you to give 10K to the village I'm going to. So you will be sponsored. You will be paying 20K, 10K to me as a sponsorship, but you will match that with paying money to the village I'm going to. So I started to create an adventure activism where everywhere I go, I make a difference. I'm still doing my thing, but I'm also making a difference.
That's amazing. What a great idea. But as a young child, did you think you would become an adventure activist? I mean, when you were at school, like young Johan, did he think what did you think you were going to be as a child, or what did you want to be?
Well, you never know really what's going to happen with your life. I thought I was going to be a lot of things. I started to play the piano. So I started to work as a piano player in restaurants and bars and stuff. And I thought I was going to be Elton John. But then it, turned out to be something else, So I think it changes with time and the situation. So I was happy with my life when I was 18, 19, working in a restaurant, playing the piano. I didn't want to be anything else than that at that time. And I want to be who I am right now. So I always try to see it as a little bit like a power of now kind of theme, I don't want to be anywhere else where I am right now. And if I want to be somewhere else, then I'm trying to go there and try to be that. But I'm not trying to look back and say, oh, I remember that time. And I don't want to look forward saying that I wish that I would be that. I want to enjoy now. I want to be me as I am now. And I didn't think I was going to be an explorer. I did think that I was going to work with something with travel and nature, but didn't know that I was going to be this. And I still don't know what I'm going to be when I grow up. So I'm still on this Peter Pan journey,
That's amazing. Now, obviously, your journey's taken you to so many countries. And what has been the most memorable experience of all of these travels?
I just want to say quickly regarding the other question. I saw this funny quote on Instagram. There was this sign. It said, "Don't grow up. It's a trap." so always be childish,
Of course.
So I'm sorry. What was this?
So the question was: obviously, you've traveled. I think it's 100 and how many countries? 178 countries. So that's huge. So what has been the most memorable experience for you visiting all of those countries? One that stands out?
When I started to travel, people said from a racist point of view, like, oh, remember, we are all the same. We're all the same people. We're all the same everything. And I took that with me. So when I started to travel around the world, I realized that's not really the case. We are not the same. We are different. We have the same worth. We are worth the same. We have the same invaluable. I'm not better or worse than anyone else. We are the same, but we're all different in terms of how we brought up. You cannot take a person in Congo or China or in New York and then say that we are the same. You need to understand that we have different kind of backgrounds. So when approaching them, when I'm going around the world, also with religions, with cultures, you need to that's what I love with the world, that it's different. You go to Mexico, you eat Mexican food, or you go to China, you have a Chinese culture experience, everything. I like that. I like that we are different. Different is good. So when people said to me that we are all the same, no, and I wouldn't want us to be the same. I want us to be different. But one thing from a non-violence point of view that I realized when I started to travel around, and I was asked this question recently, if I have $1 billion, where would I put it? 3 things: communication, education, information. We need to talk to each other. It's not me or them, it's us. That's the communication. Information, they need to know the facts. And also education, they need to understand what it is. So for me, it's been very important when I travel around the world to trying to understand the needs. Like I was in earthquake, Nepal, 2015. A lot of organization was sending food and water, and the locals, the Sherpas, came to me like, "Why are these people sending water? We have the glaciers here." I said, "So what do you need?" "Well, we need 4.3 meter long, this thick plastic sheets." "What do you need that?" "Well, the monsoon is coming. It's going to be raining. Our roofs are cracked, and we have 100,000 houses that are cracked, and we need to repair them until we can start to repair the actual houses." Makes sense. So I went to India, started ordering that. So I started to understand more that you need to ask people. You need to be on location and ask. That's why I'm traveling so much. I'm trying to go to places and understand what do they need, not what do I think they need. Because from this Western WASP kind of perspective, like, that I'm coming there and say, this is what you need. Well, that's what you think that I need. That's not what we need, So that's why it's been very important to go around the world and trying to understand what people need and then trying to find ways to support that.
I mean, that makes so much sense. I mean, it is the obvious one. We assume we know what people in need and disasters need, but I mean,
also
to the Himalayas.
Yeah, but also from if you take like from a violence point of view, I'm from Sweden, for example. I mean, like, we never been to war. We never been to anything. So like, it's not dangerous to walk on the streets. Nobody's shooting you, everything. You cannot just say that you go to a person in some other country where they have like, civil wars the whole time and people get robbed and killed all the time and say that, no, it's all good. People are so kind. Yeah, but that's where you come from. That's not the situation here right now because we have a civil war going on. So you need to understand their perspective of violence and what that means to them. So I cannot speak from a Swedish point of view when I go to a place in the middle of, if I go to Yemen in a war situation, I cannot say that this is the way it is. No, that's the way it is for you. That's not the way it is for us. So you need to take in perspective to understand them, to have them understand the importance of nonviolence. You need to understand from their point of view.
No, that's a valid point. I mean, so I know you talked about the cultural differences between the various places that you've gone to, but if you had to find a common thread that runs through humanity or all these 178 different cultures that you've met, what can you conclude? What is the thing that makes us all the same? Is it that the capacity for love, we all feel pain, or what have you seen in your travels?
Nobody means harm. Nobody wants. Then you can say different perspective, like, so if somebody is robbing me, he's stealing my watch. Okay, that doesn't mean that he's evil. It means that there is some part of his education when he grew up or his upbringing that made him thinking that it's okay to steal that watch. And he's stealing that watch because he doesn't have a job or he needs that. There's so many things leading to the actual moment. Somebody's killing the other person, okay? That means there's a background to that. No person is purely evil. Any of the dictators or any of the big names that we have as evil people in history, none of them were born evil. But none of them were born good. So we are what we become, and we can choose. We are yin and yang. I'm evil, I'm good. You're evil, you're good. Sometimes you do bad things. Sometimes you do good things. The important thing is to stay on the positive line, on the plus. And no monk or anything is purely. I remember I had this discussion with one of my Lama friends in Nepal, and he came to me and he was shaking his body because, you see, the Chinese took over Tibet. 1 million monks were killed. That's a fact. It's not an opinion. And so I asked him, so do you feel hate against the Chinese? No, because I might feel hate against the action those people did, but that was in the 50s. I cannot go to a Chinese person today and feel hate because they have nothing to do with that. So then I had a dream. I had a dream because I saw the news and there was some kind of flooding, and I had a dream, and I was happy in that dream that there was a flooding in China. And I woke up crying because I felt so bad that I felt happiness that somebody was having harm for something. So meaning that
Wow.
even a monk can have some kind of feeling that he feels hate or he feels anger against someone. But then you need to understand it's not really the person, it's the action that you hate. Somebody stealing my watch, I hate the action that he did because he harmed me. But I don't hate him as a person because there's a reason why he did it. So what I learned over the years when I look at the world is that nobody's evil and nobody means any harm, even though you see all these kind of people and all the big names that in like Hitler, whatever, you see all these things, but there's a reason for everything. You can hate the actions, but everyone is yin and yang. Everyone is good and evil. And we must try to understand that everyone can be turned from evil action until good actions. So no matter what a person have done, I always believe there's a hope.
So it's about having some sort of empathy towards other people's situations, as you say. And unless there's an education around choices that people are making,
yeah,
one will view it as bad, one will view it as good.
Yeah.
So Johan, I mean, we talk a lot in nonviolence about working with young people and recognizing that they are the future. When you turn that from an environmental point of view and you look at young people like Greta Thunberg that have risen up and have created a voice, what do you think this has been down to from her point of view, or for young people rising up against the environment?
Two things. What we can do, we have two choices. One is we need to choose the right leaders, meaning that we need to choose a leader that takes a responsibility. For example, if I go on a bus, if it's an old, very bad bus that I'm using, it's not up to me. I have to take the bus. I'm using the bus. If the government puts new electric, really good buses, then I just join the bus anyway. So it's not my choice. Government and the leaders are making that choice for me. What kind of water I have in my tab when I'm drinking, it's not me. It's not my choice. It's the leaders, organizations, and all the top people deciding that. On the other hand, I can make a choice. I can make a choice. I want to recycle this. I want to buy vintage things because it's cool to use it once again. Or I want to, for example, not eat meat every day, or etc. etc. That's my choice. So you have two boxes. One, I make small decisions that make a big impact. Second, I choose the leaders that make the big choices for me in terms of governmental or country-wise things that I cannot change. So those are the two things that I think that young people of today needs to think about.
And so, I mean, it's also, I find it quite interesting that you yourself are an adventure activist, and then you've got almost a generation later, you got Greta Thunberg. Do you think this is a Swedish thing? I mean, Swedish are known as a green society.
Well, yes and no. I wouldn't say it's Swedish. I would say that some countries are more educated than others in this question. They might be more educated in other areas, but in this, we have been very in the forefront of understanding these things. And we are also, I think we are planting, we have a plus growing forestry, meaning that our forests are growing more and more because if we take down one tree, we plant 2, 3. Don't take the exact numbers, but that's something of that thing that we're doing. So those things has been going on. And I think we see that. We read about that in the news and we become, interested in that. Many countries are very interested in those things. But also, I do think that, for example, even though China has been extremely bad for many years in these things, they are having enormous visions and ideas and changing now. So if they will change what they're saying, they will change the whole world in terms of cars, in terms of factories, in terms of things. So I hope they will change. So I won't say it's a Swedish thing. I would say that Sweden have a very good education in it. And I hope that more people will take this seriously.
And when you talk
and then also, I just want to say another thing. We also need to have the fact Because just because it's not that easy saying that fuel car is bad, electric car is good. It's not that easy. It depends on what electricity do you use. What do you do with the battery after? How was the battery constructed? I mean, or for example, if you go with an electric car 8 hours per day, or if you use a fuel car twice a week. So it's not that easy to say that you're a bad person, you're a good person. It's all about the whole balance of how you're living your life, you know.
Yeah, I remember there was that anecdote that was going around. Who is more environmentally friendly, a meat eater in a Prius or a vegetarian in a Hummer? Now, obviously, the Hummer's a gas guzzler, that was that kind of irony.
And then also like another thing, 2% of the world's CO2 consumption comes from the flight industry. 2% comes also from internet. So internet has the same percentage as the flight industry. Then you have the big one are the meat industry, construction, transport of concrete. So people can look at a car and say that you're a bad person, you drive that car. Yeah, but you built that huge house. What has that to do with it? Well, you don't know your facts. Or for example, as you said, vegetarian meat. So I'm not vegetarian, but I eat much less meat than I did before. So I don't think we should become extreme, because if we become extreme, then it will tilt, it will flip, and we will go back again and we will be bad. So I have a friend of mine who owns this big gym in New York, and he's so happy every January because people are buying all these kind of cards and they don't use it then. So they buy it from December to January. He has like 70% or 200% plus. And then in February, March, it just goes down and then nobody goes back again because people want to start all over. He said, it's better not to go every day. It's better to go once a week, but do it the whole time. Instead of saying that I'm going to lose weight, I'm going to go 7 times per day for the rest of my life. Don't do that. Go once a week slowly and then just add on, you know? So that's why I think it's very important to see the balance and not only one specific thing.
You talk about China and the changes they're looking to make. Do you think we are taking environmental challenges seriously enough?
I think we are doing much, much better than we did. Like I did my first film about climate change in '98. Nobody wanted to watch it. Nobody was sort of like, I said, global warming, what does it mean? Well, the world is getting hotter. Oh, that's great. No, it's not great. So I think that a bigger voice was Al Gore. So when he came with his, film, that made a change. He opened up a discussion. So I think that it will advance more. We need to do a lot, but I think we're doing better than we did 10, 15 years ago.
And when you look at the climate emergency or emergency planet Earth, what area concerns you the most? You spoke a little bit there about global warming. Is it the plastic in the oceans? Is it the deforestation? I mean, there's so many. Which one is the one in your travels that concerns you the most?
So people say that ocean plastic is the worst, or microplastic in the oceans, or the meat industry, or racism, or the wrong politics, or this, or that, or like, but it's not, it's us. We are the problem. You cannot just say that climate change is bad, or war is bad, or violence is bad, or this is bad. All of these things are effects of our actions. So we are the cause, and we must be the solution. So if you have billion species on this planet, there's only one destroying the planet, is us. If we take away our species, the world would do absolutely fine. We are taking away species the whole time. None other species is doing that. So we are the only problem. We don't have to be. We can live in symbiosis. We can live in balance with nature, but not until we understand that we are nature can we be a part of nature. We think that we are superior. We think that we stand above nature. Not until we realize that we are nature can we live in balance.
So it comes back to, as you said earlier, educating, giving people the facts, and communicating those facts. So the change, like everything, rests with us.
Yes. Communication, education, information.
It's funny because my next question was all about the late Hugh Masekela, which was the South African trumpeter. He always used to say that the human race is like the garden snail to the garden. Slowly the snail, if you don't, you can eat it away. I mean, you just answered my question, how we change that. But when you look at all of this, if we don't make changes, how do you see that playing out? I mean, will nature prevail ultimately in the sense that it'll get too hot, or we'll run out of food, or...
Well, if we don't change, we will automatically be taken out by nature. We will not survive our species if we don't adapt to nature. That's very easy.
Now, I mean, I put a little fact in there that it alarmed me, was that in December 2020, the amount of man-made material on Earth outweighed natural matter. I mean, somebody said to me, but everything's made from something, right? But my point is that we now weigh more than natural things. Is this a cause for concern?
Well, I mean, it's you have like some of the big fashion companies, for example. I'm not going to mention any names, but you have 4 seasons per year. I know a few of the companies that have 62 collections per year, and so meaning that, my friend, that green T-shirt, that's cool today, and you're out next week because you're not in fashion next week, because you should have a blue T-shirt and you're a bad person. so I think that I'm getting more and more into things that I can have for a long time, even if I pay more money for it. I'm looking at the jackets, saying that that's a jacket that's cool. I can have that one in 10, 15 years. I'm thinking more like that than I did before. So I think that gradually we will get more into more sustainable kind of thinking.
Okay, yeah, that's a good point. I mean, talking about equipment and stuff, when you do the Himalayas and Nepal and places like that, is the scale? I mean, you always see pictures of explorers or people that have gone up there hiking, just dumping their stuff. Is it as bad as they say it is? I mean, you would have seen.
Well, so the same again. It used to be worse. Now it's better. So I was a part of a cleaning expedition that I helped to organize, where it was taking down 15 tons of garbage from Mount Everest. So now, for example, a lot of organizations, a lot of climbers are taking down garbage. So now it's cleaning up pretty well. But if you go back 10, 15 years, it was a big dump. So it's starting more and more and more, but the oceans are the biggest problem, because we are dumping everything in the ocean. Even though we're taking everything down from the mountains and taking it down to Kathmandu, it will in a few years end up down in India and down in the oceans. So or you dig it down and you think that it's gone because you do the ostrich dumping, it's like you put your head in the sand, like it doesn't happen, it never happened, it doesn't exist,
Have you seen that documentary Seaspiracy yet?
Yeah, of course.
What did you make of it?
I think that so I'm going to give you a short example. In 1970s, George Harrison did his Bangladesh concert because there was a problem in Bangladesh. Then we are the world. We did all the things for Africa, and Bono and all these kind of people did that thing. And then you have, for example, Liz Taylor started Amfar because Rock Hudson died of AIDS. And then you have, for example, some kind of racist movements because somebody gets shot in the U.S. Everything. It doesn't mean that the other things. So just because we have a movement now for non-violence, or we have a movement for some kind of racist shooting in U.S., or we have COVID, it doesn't mean that the people in Bangladesh are fine. It doesn't mean that the friends of Rock Hudson doesn't get AIDS. So just because media is focusing on one thing right now we're going to be talking about that film, for example, and the oceans. And then we forget about that, for example, there's gay rights in you have the wrong gay rights in 45 countries around the world, etc. That doesn't change just because we're focusing on the ocean. So I see more of a balance. So I do agree that the film is important, but I do think that we need to change the way we look, the way we are, not just one specific thing. We need to change who we are as species.
Absolutely. And do you also think that, and I mean, again, it's a bit of a left field example, but that there was that movie about the killer whale that was in captivity. I think it was called Black Orca or something. I can't remember the name of it, but there was this outrage and people stopped going to theme parks and, but there was this reset and then everybody started doing it again. Do you think we have a tendency to do that? There's a shock. I mean, we had somebody in here the other day said she stopped eating fish because of that. But how long can you do that?
That's the same thing as my friend has this gym in New York. You're going to work out 7 hours per day, blah, blah, and then you're going to stop again, then you're going to start again. So that's why I'm not stopping eating meat. I'm not stopping eating fish. I'm just slowly taking it down because I believe if everyone does it, then we will fix the
Yes.
problems. Maybe I will stop one day, but I don't want to be extreme and stop doing everything. I want to do it less, and I want to do it more sustainable, and I want to think more about how I'm doing things. And that's, if we all can do that, we will make a huge difference.
Yeah, that's true. Extremism doesn't pay in any way. So, Johan, if I can just get down to some getting to know you better kind of questions.
Yeah.
First one is, what keeps you up at night? And don't say Netflix.
Amazon Prime. Just kidding. No. What keeps me up at night? Probably coming expeditions, the coming things that I'm planning.
What music are you listening to at the moment?
I'm listening right now to some old Beatles records, and I'm listening a lot to some French jazz that I found.
And an inspirational book that you've read or you are reading?
Power of Now, Eckhart Tolle.
An inspirational quote?
It would be by His Holiness Dalai Lama. I asked him once about religions. I asked him, is religion important? And he answered, religion is not important. People can live without religion. People cannot live without love and compassion. So no matter what kind of religion you're connected to, it must build on love and compassion. Then the rest, it doesn't really matter. It's your belief, but it must be built on love and compassion. That's the basic of like humankind.
I like that. And your happiest place?
It can be anywhere where I'm feeling in balance with myself. Not a geographical place. I do love the Himalayas and I do love the south of France. But if I'm not happy, then it's the same thing as if you're having a good meal. If you have the good meal with yourself and if you're unhappy, it doesn't taste so good. If you have a bad hamburger with the one you love and laughing, it's going to be a good meal. So it depends on who you are,
True. And that leads me on to what is the food that makes you most think of your youth and growing up?
I think it's going to be laughing, but I think it's Swedish meatballs and pasta, with ketchup with my mom, when I was a kid,
Amazing. What lesson did you learn the hard way?
That do not underestimate yourself. You can do so much more than you think. Don't let other people telling you what you can do, because it's up to you to choose what you can do.
If you could teach something, what would it be?
That everything is possible. The impossible just takes more time.
What's your proudest moment?
One of them, at least, was when one adventure thing was when I came down from Mount Everest. That's when I stood on the summit, because that's just halfway. When I came down from Mount Everest. The other one, I think, was when I helped the boy in a wheelchair up to the highest point of Sweden who had cancer.
Wow. What advice would you give young people?
That, again, that everything is possible. Impossible is just a word that we have created, explaining that we don't know how it works. But just because we don't know how it works doesn't mean it cannot be done.
And you may have answered this with His Holiness's quote, but what's the best piece of advice you were ever given?
Never to underestimate yourself.
And second but not last, what are your plans for the future? You talked about, you got any expeditions coming up?
Yes, I do. I have a podcast starting. I have a movie series, TV series starting. I have a new book coming. I have things going.
Wow, Johan. And you're about to travel off again, right?
Yeah. I'm doing research for a new TV series. So that's why I'm meeting with some tribes in Amazon, in Peru and Bolivia.
Wow. And where can people find out more about you?
Instagram is good. Johan Ernst. That's the one that I use mostly now.
Excellent, Johan. Thank you so much, man. That's been great.
Thank you so much.
I've really appreciated your time.